Losing 7 games is just another day in the life at Nebraska, but for Matt Rhule, 5 wins in year 1 was uncharted territory. He came in with big long-term aspirations, but 2023 was about laying a foundation that'll pay dividends in the future. After missing a bowl game, most of us felt like this season was a failure, and the arguments to say that it wasn't aren't too convincing. But 5 one-score losses, 5th place in the Big Ten West, and the most turnovers in college football is a surefire way to leave a bad taste in everybody's mouth. I don't know what Rhule and the staff think about their first year record, but I've got some thoughts. So today, I'll break down whether or not I think this season was a success or a failure, and we'll look back at the preseason expectations. But what's up, guys? I'm Connor Hayden, and this is Corn Crazed. If you're a fan of Nebraska or the Big Ten, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss my videos where I break down what's next for the team. And if you're ready to move past this ugly November run, hit the like button and help us get to 1,000. But now, let's get into it.
He's hit and set. He's taking a shot downfield, wide open end zone, caught, touchdown.
I went live after the loss on Friday, and it was a pretty depressing deal because it really felt like 2 field goal blocks were enough to keep momentum in their favor. And watching the season end the same way that it started was about as painful of an experience as any of us could have predicted. There's this movie called Happy Death Day, and it's about a college girl who wakes up every day on the day she gets murdered. She knows how and she knows when she's going to die, but even though she knows it's coming, she can't avoid it. Purdy's final interception was destiny. It was just as likely statistically that Nebraska would lose 5 games in the same exact fashion as it was that they'd win 10 total. The reason we were all so pissed off after the Iowa game wasn't because they lost. It was because we all knew when, where, and how Iowa was going to kill them. And even though we all knew, there was still no way to stop it. Since there's no bowl game and the content's going to transition to off-season mode in about a month now, I want to take a second to just say thank you to everybody who supported me all season long, because it was a lot of work to kick out this much content. I get comments and messages all the time about the channel, and even though the games leave me a little frustrated sometimes, the community that we built makes the season so much more fun for me, and you guys make me want to spend hours doing research and working on content, since I love getting to share my thoughts and to talk to you about yours. And I don't know what the future holds for Corn Crazed, but I can say for sure, out of everything I've gotten to work on and build, this channel's been one of the most rewarding things I've ever done, and that's all because of you. I titled this one, Did Rhule Fail or Succeed in His First Season? Because back in August, there was a lot of debate about what we should expect with him coming in. We knew he had a good amount of talent on the roster to work with, and that with better coaches, the team would have a really good shot to compete in the Big Ten West right away. But none of us knew how bad the West was actually going to be, and that wasn't the only thing we didn't know. Add in the disaster at QB, the injury issues before we even hit October, and I'm sure most of us would have never thought Nebraska could make a bowl game. But that's the beauty of the preseason. Your predictions are based on the current situation, and although you can adjust your expectations as you make it through the year, there are so many variables at play that it usually evens itself out. The defense was expected to be a top 60 unit, but they finished number 14 above Oregon, Utah, and Alabama. We thought the Big Ten West would have at least 2 ranked teams, but it ended up being the worst Power 5 division in college football. So even though there was turmoil on offense, those other points balanced things out. Vegas set Nebraska's win total at 6.5, so the prediction was that they'd finish with either 6 or 7 and obviously go bowling. Then the injuries happened. Haarberg took over for Sims, and sitting at 5-3 after the win over Purdue, Vegas still predicted Nebraska was going to finish 7-5. But take Vegas out of it, because they're not always right. Just look at individual games. Minnesota was a 3-point loss, and they lost the turnover battle by 3. Michigan State was a 3-point loss, and again, they lost the turnover battle by 3. Maryland was a 3-point loss, and you guessed it, they lost the turnover battle again. And then against Iowa, same story. The issue in all those losses was that the teams they played all won off multiple turnovers, but they didn't win convincingly. They won on bullshit. They won on final drives. They won on the final plays of the game. Nebraska played better in almost every loss, but the nonsense bit them every single time, and their opponents didn't have to win because Nebraska always lost. There's no way to spin it into a positive. The 2023 season was a failure. You can blame the coaches or you can blame a handful of players, but it doesn't matter who you blame. The issues run deep, and for whatever reason, they weren't something that Matt Rhule was able to fix in his first 9 months as the coach. But here's the thing. Most people can agree that this was a failed season, but the season's different from the year. The season is the 12-game slate that Nebraska played from August 31st to November 24th. The year started when Rhule took over, and it's a lot more than just 12 games. It's a lot more than the on-field performance in a new system. It's the player development, the recruiting, the shift in culture, and it's how players respond. I don't remember the last time I saw multiple true freshmen come in and light it up right away the way Cam Lenhart, Prince Will, or Jalen Lloyd all did in their first year. And who would have thought that guys like John or Alex Bullock, Makai Bayer, or Heinrich Harburg would have turned into big-time contributors after they struggled to find their lane under the last staff? You listen to pressers now, and Rhule talks about players wanting to return to play for one more year, even if they have to fight for eligibility. And now guys like Ty Robinson and Bryce Benhart, who are borderline draft picks, actually want to stay in the program because they know what an extra year is going to do for their stock. That wasn't happening under the last staff. There'll be a few guys who hit the portal because they don't feel like they're being used the right way or won't get that much playing time with so much competition, but I don't see much portal activity coming out of Lincoln. The players understand the vision. They see where things are going, and they finally want to be a part of what's being built at Nebraska. What's crazy is Rutgers and Northwestern both made bowl games this year, playing pretty much the same schedule Nebraska did. And there will be arguments that they don't have the same caliber of coaches or the same level of talent on their roster. But let's talk about the facts. The fact that Rutgers went +4 on turnovers this season. The fact that Northwestern's 2 quarterbacks completed 63% of their passes and threw 17 TDs. Give Nebraska a Northwestern QB and they would have won at least 7. You look at the margin for error and how small it was, and then you look at the most important position on the field. The fate of the entire team was in the hands of the quarterback almost every week. When Heinrich was on, they won, but on the days any of those 3 were off, the team couldn't overcome all the mistakes. And that's kind of the bottom line here. The season was a failure because their most important players weren't ready when we hoped they would be. And even though the guys who played secondary roles like the defensive ends, the offensive tackles, the kickers, and everything else that takes a backseat to the QB played up to the standard or sometimes even better than expected, it wasn't enough to get it done. You look back to the schedule, and Nebraska's record against teams playing in bowl games was 2-4, and their record against teams who hit 5 wins or less was 3-3. They lost to a Minnesota team that took a major step back from years past, a Colorado team who was severely overrated to start the season and crumbled down the stretch, and then Michigan State, who was in shambles without their head coach, but ended their 6-game losing streak against Nebraska. And I'm piling on the negative because I want to make sure we acknowledge how bad this first season was for Matt Rhule. Not because I want to trash him or the job he's done, because I'm super high on the future and I know he's going to get it going with the right QB. But let's really understand where he's starting so we can appreciate where he's going. In the Big Ten East or the Pac-12, this was a 3-win team. This was a team that was on brand with year 1 Matt Rhule football. And that's okay, because next year, the schedule is going to be harder, but the team's going to be a lot better with a clearly defined mission and the blueprint for how to get where they want to be. I saw Adam Carricker just released his final grades after Rhule's first season, and he covers every aspect of the offense and the defense in detail. So I'm going to finish watching the rest of it after I get this posted up. But he's been an awesome supporter of our channel and helps me keep the content free. So if you haven't had a chance to yet, make sure to head to his YouTube page, Carricker Chronicles, or you can click my description box below and you'll find the link to his website that'll get you straight to his newest release. I'm going to start working on my video for what's next with this team because the portal opens in a week, the coaching hires get finalized over the next month, and building towards 2024 starts now. So I'll try to get that one up by Wednesday, and we'll see where things go from here. But I want to know what you think, so let me know in the comments below. Does Rhule have this ship going in the right direction, or do you still have doubts after what you watched these past few months? Is next year's QB1 on the roster today, or is he still playing at another school? And what was the staff's biggest accomplishment in their first year? I'm in between the improved tackling and the development of true freshman players, but since the player development is what's needed to build depth for a championship program, I'm going to roll with that one and say that's the biggest accomplishment for now. But that's all I've got for the day. So until next time, thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Go Big Red.